Alrighty then.
What's up, buddy? Glad you're back. One of you. You can be bounce, man. You can be my bounce.
Definitely one ear can't hear on the other.
You can be my bounce, man. I don't know how far all that'll get you, but slide this table real quick. Hey, we shut those doors. We still got seats over there. I didn't know who he was, his name, but I got you now. I didn't realize that. Oh! I always get where I can. Yeah. Convenient, right? Alright. Sitting in a different spot tonight. Feel like I'm yelling at you. Glad y'all here. Let's get everybody in. Alright, we're going. Let's see if we can shut them.
Brandon's coming in.
I don't know if they can hear me. I feel like I'm.
Brandon went to get water.
Yeah. I did, but I was far away. I won't just have to cross.
They saved your seat over there. Robert saved your seat.
I won't trust the dude. Well, but double-edged sword. It's easier to get pulled down than somebody else. That's a crucial time too. All right, let's get rolling here. I thought nobody was here, judging from the auditorium down there, but we got a class full. So good. Obviously, the adults got nobody here now because we all left. In the way of announcements, Stuart asked me to remind you guys that next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, is the Men of Iron here, church, free meal, good speaker. And then the next month, they're going to do a chili cook-off bonfire for men only. So hopefully my ball game schedule is where I can go to that too. So anyway, Sisters in Christ coming up. Becky, you want to speak to that?
Yes, we're going to be doing a teacher appreciation and staff appreciation dinner for our members who are teaching public school and staff. So we'd love for you young ladies to come and help us show our appreciation to these ladies and men and be with us. We're going to have a potluck meal, but don't worry about bringing anything. Y'all just come and enjoy it with us and enjoy the fellowship. We always have a great time. We'd love to have y'all.
All right, we'll try to keep, we had a meeting last Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and we set the church calendar for the rest of the year. So we'll be adding those dates to the board as we go along. I would suggest you take a picture of it. I get fussed at by some of y'all's parents because I don't announce things or they didn't know. That's on you, not me, because I've been announcing them. We all do, and they're on this board. So y'all keep updated. Sunday night, some of y'all are really missing out. We got. I'm not going to promote that too much because we got a good group coming on Sunday night. We're doing a lot of fun activities on Sunday night this fall. We've got our own big cookout coming up when it gets cooler and darker early. So anyway, I want to invite you back. We got some first timers here. I'm not going to embarrass them, but we're glad you're here if you're here for the first time. Last week we had some first timers here, and I don't see them back. And I hope that's not because of the way we behaved last week, because we struggled at. And I hope that going forward, we'll be welcoming, and we won't be a distraction. And I told the group Sunday night, as a school teacher, I've taught school 35 years now. Starting my 35th year. There's 2 people in 35 years I hadn't got along with. And it was their fault both times. I'm going to show you respect. The only pastoring rules I got is show me respect, I'll show you respect. Last Wednesday night, some of y'all did not show respect. And I would appreciate your respect. And I promise you I'll show you respect. When you're telling me to pray for somebody that's deathly ill in your family, I promise you I'm not going to be on my phone. Okay, you got my full attention, okay? So I hope you're here for the right reason. I hope you're here because you want to be. I'm excited about what we're talking about tonight. Without further ado, have y'all ever heard the expression, make your mark, or left your mark? All right? Somebody quickly, short answers. What does that mean to y'all? Where's my talkers?
Make an impact.
Huh?
Make an impact.
Good.
Kind of like a first impression and like opposite sense.
Starting point.
Good. Starting point. All right.
You
Gracie,
do
how
something
many?
that people know it's you.
Do what?
You do something people know you did it.
All right. What else? What do you think of when you make that? When you hear that expression? I'll tell you what I think of. Because I watch a lot of old movies and cowboy movies and stuff. You know, back in the day, there were a lot of people that couldn't read and write, right? And they were what you call illiterate. And they would sign their name with an X. And I've seen old movies where it said, make your mark. They didn't say sign your name because they knew they couldn't write. They said, make your mark. And I actually did some research this week on that. And there are still people who can't read and write. And we had a custodian in our school a few years back, and everything he signed with an X. But you can legally sign documents as long as there's 2 witnesses with your mark, whatever that is, if you can't write your name. So that's pretty cool stuff. But I think about that. But nonetheless, they both still are the same thing, right? Whether you leave a mark on this world or your school or your church or your family, or you leave your mark on a piece of paper to sign your name or show that you're bound to whatever you're signing. It's leaving your mark, so to speak. All right, so tonight I want to, with that in mind, I want to talk about some random folks right here. How many of y'all ever heard of Billy Bean? All right, here's Billy. I'm going to tell you about Billy Bean. I was watching Major League Baseball channel the other night. If I turn TV on, it's only to watch Major League Baseball. Am I right, Amy? I waste a lot of money paying for Dish Network every month because I do not watch. We don't have time. We're never there. But I'll watch baseball late at night just until maybe 1 or 2 outs, and then I'm out. But anyway, Billy Bean died. And I forgot about Billy Bean. Billy Bean was played in the late 70s, early 80s. He was the first or second Major League Baseball player to come out of the closet and say he was gay. All right? And he died at an early age. And what I didn't know about him, for the last several years, he's made big money working for Major League Baseball as the chairman of diversity in Major League Baseball. Okay? But what he's noted for is the fact that he was a homosexual. Of course, obviously, we don't agree with that at church. But that's his mark. All right? And here's the thing. I'm a pretty good historian of baseball. He wasn't no camp. Okay? I did not remember him playing. I did not remember him coming out of the closet. And I certainly didn't even know they had a job of diversity. Okay? But people in that world, all he'll be remembered for is what? First person to come out and publicly say that, all right, but that's his mark, all right? We'll give you, there was a guy, as teachers, we get emails, and it runs me and Amy crazy sometimes. All the schools in Marshall County are networked together, and if we have a birth in our family or a death in our family, everybody in the county is going to know it that teaches school because they blast that out. and they're trying to do a good thing. I don't want my business out there, but this guy died, and it said, is it Chapel Hill? A guy named Larry Baxter. And it got my attention because I know a Larry Baxter who used to be a fireman, but I don't think it was him. But nonetheless, it was somebody's father, an aide or something, I think at one of the Chapel Hill schools maybe. But nonetheless, they sent his obituary out. And I read his obituary, and this is what it said. It said that Larry loved creation. He loved being out in the sun. He was steadfast in his faith. He relied on the strength of the Lord during the good times and the bad. And he was blessed with a great family that loved him dearly. And he loved to tell them old stories. That's what he's remembered for. We don't know him, but that's what the people who knew him remember for. Is that a good way to be remembered? All right. I'll tell you about another guy real quick, and I'm going to tie all this together. His name was Guy Bates Sr. He is my first cousin's granddad. He died several years ago, and he was a pretty famous guy. If you lived in Nashville, you would have known that name back in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. He was a Metro councilman. He was key in building Baptist Hospital and all the structure of that when it was the most powerful hospital in Nashville. He owned grocery stores. He was tied to the ones here in Lewisburg. He was he played professional baseball. He was best friends with Tommy Lasorda. That doesn't mean nothing to some of y'all that used to, the legendary coach of the Dodgers. But anyway, he's a who's who. At his funeral, he had the president of Baptist Hospital. He had Vince Gill, I think, sang at it. Amy Grant, maybe. It was just a ton of famous people. All right. In his obituary, I cut it out of the Nashville, and I've still got it at home. I meant to start to look it up today, but I didn't want to dwell on it. But it's about that long. And they'll give you about that much for free, but it's about that long. And it's folded over and over and over and over. All right. And even though I know the guy, I read his obituary way back when, and you know what I was looking for? God. I was looking for church. I was looking for, he's a member of one of the who's who obituary you've ever seen. That dude was involved, famous everywhere. Nowhere in that obituary was the name of God mentioned. Okay? Now, he's famous. Y'all don't know him, but he was famous. Larry Baxter, none of us probably have ever heard of, right? But what's the difference in obituaries? One was famous in this world. One's going to be recognized in the next world. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. Now, play a quick game without losing control. I'm going to give y'all some names, and I don't want a story with it. I just want you to tell me what they're noted for, okay? Some of them may be tricky, but most of them are real obvious. All right, when you think of what they left their mark on the earth, basically is what the theme here. Adam and Eve.
First humans.
First humans.
First sin.
What else?
Eating the
First
apple? Or eating the fruit?
Fall of man. They introduced, sin was introduced in the world through them. Yeah, they were the first created, and because of eating the forbidden fruit, they were the first sinners. We can thank them for our sinful nature. Brandon always asks for prayer for temptation. We can thank Adam and Eve. They gave in to the first temptation. All right, what about Noah?
The ark.
All right, what about Moses?
Bringing Jerusalem out of Egypt.
All right, Egyptian, Ten Commandments, crossing the Red Sea. What about, changing gear, what about Adolf Hitler?
Murder.
Murdered. He murdered over, was it 4 million? 6 million Jews?
12 million Jews.
It's not
I'm
even
pretty sure I thought it was 12 million.
No, 6 million Jews and over 3 million other people and minorities.
Okay.
Like Chinese.
Bottom line is this, and I had a class in college because I minored in history, and it was called 20th Century Europe. It was the best class I ever took in my life. This dude preached history. He didn't teach it, he preached it. he'd walk out there he'd come in with a shirt and tie on, he'd be soaking wet, and man, I was writing like crazy. He's a wonderful teacher. But that whole class was about World War II basically. And he made us study Hitler, and he made us read a book called Mein Kampf that Hitler wrote. And I'm gonna tell you this, Hitler was brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant people to ever live. He took a little old country and almost took over the world. And he brainwashed people. And he was crazy good at politics and military strategies and all that stuff. All right, but he's noted for being a murderer. One of the worst human beings the face of the earth has ever seen. Okay, that's the mark he left on the world. What about Abraham Lincoln?
Civil War.
President?
Best president ever lived.
Cameron said it.
Really tall hat.
Oh,
Abolish slavery.
What do you do good?
Abolish
The
slavery.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Thank you. Emancipation Proclamation.
I know you said it first.
All right. What about, here, get a little harder maybe, so Thomas Edison.
Invented
Light bulb, electricity, good.
I think of him as a thief. He's a big scammer, and he stole everything from Tesla.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a terrible
positive.
guy.
Yeah.
What about George Washington? First president? What's his nickname? Yeah, Cross of Delaware. What was his nickname?
Father of America.
Father of America, father of our country. Good. That's coming from a non-historian over there. All right. What about the Wright brothers?
They invented air travel.
Airplanes. All right, guys. This is some of y'all. What about Tom Brady?
Best quarterback of all time.
Second best quarterback.
All right.
Underrated quarterback.
Retired and
Awesome.
came into
that was
7 Super Bowls.
Stop.
You gotta give him.
All right. I'm gonna give Chuck this one. Nick Saban.
Worst college
Ah.
best college football coach ever.
Ever.
He's the best.
7 national champions, the GOAT, right? Okay. Left his mark. Like him or not, all these people left their mark. Positive, negative, okay? Would you say they lived their life with an exclamation point, whether it was positive or negative?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, and that's what we're going to focus on here in just a second. But I want you to examine your own life, and not out loud, but I want you to think about what kind of mark are you going to leave on this world? Because I'm going to tell you something. There's a poem, and I didn't look it up, but and some of y'all have heard it. There's a poem that's called 100 Years From Now. And it says, 100 years from now, nobody's going to remember where you lived, what kind of house you lived in, what kind of car you drove, what kind of clothes you wore, how much money you made, how many home runs you hit, or how many tackles you made, or whatever. But the only impact any of us could have 100 years from now is the impact that we have on a child, or the impact we have on the next generation, okay? The rest of it, totally forgot. Okay, 100 years from now. You know what everybody on the Titanic, everybody's heard of the Titanic, right?
Yeah.
Hit an iceberg, sunk. You know what everybody on the Titanic has in common?
They're famous for dying in the Titanic.
Not all of them didn't die in the Titanic, but you're right.
For being on
What do they all have in common right now? All of them have in common right now. They're all dead, right? So whether they survived that night or live several more years, they're all dead. And I meant to bring an old picture. I couldn't find it to show a picture. And it's a kind of a trick question. And it's back in the World War I era, and say it's a big picture, group picture of soldiers and people around us. And you know what everybody in this picture has in common? They're all dead, right? Because life goes by like that. All right. So what kind of mark are you gonna leave? What are you gonna leave on? Are you proving me wrong?
I was trying to.
All right. Anyway,
I was wrong.
what kind of mark are you going to leave on this world? All right. But more importantly, what kind of mark are you going to leave spiritually on this world? And if I put some stuff on the board, if a sin, and you put your name in there, if you put your name right there where it says your name, and if we were talking about you tonight, and you weren't here and you were gone, you'd gone on to the heaven or hell. If we said so-and-so left his or her mark, what would we say about you? Okay, now here's some punctuation lessons, and I don't know if this is correct, so I'm not an English teacher, so if I'm wrong, get off of me, because I don't care, okay? That first thing up there at the very top, dot, dot, dot. I don't even know, is that legal to use in
some
correct
cases.
punctuation?
In some cases.
All right, what's that mean? When you,
It's a pause. It's an elongated pause.
all right, I like what you said. Continuation, what's it mean to anybody? Anybody else?
Dramatic, it's very dramatic.
Like, suspenseful.
I always say, like, they start a sentence and then dot, dot, dot. I always think of it as to be determined or to be continued, right? Okay, so that's why I put that. Your name left his or her mark, dot, dot, dot. And you know why the dot, dot, dot's there? Because it's still to be determined. All of us still got breath in us tonight, okay? Everybody still conscious in here? All right, we're all still alive. So that means we've all got a chance. We've all got a chance to fill in that dot, dot, dot with something good, something bad. And then the second one, same thing. Spiritually, you left your mark, dot, dot, dot. Now, how is the sentence of your life going to be finished? And we're going to look at, those are my punctuation marks, by the way. I didn't separate them good. There's a period, exclamation point, question mark, and comma. Now, 3 of those you can legally, that ain't a good word, grammatically end a sentence with, right? Which 3? All right, not the comma, but the other 3, okay? There's 3 ways to end a sentence. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. There's just 3, right? It's either going to end in a period, question mark, or exclamation point. Now, most commonly, what's the majority of sentences ever written in this world? Every book you've ever picked up, every book you've ever read, whether it's for pleasure or whatever. Most sentences end in a what?
Period.
What's period mean?
It's over.
It's over.
It's done.
Okay? That sentence is over. That paragraph's over. Okay? Now, what if we put a question mark at the end of a sentence?
It's a question.
It's a question, you don't know.
Right. We don't know. We might know the answer, we might not, okay? But that writer is writing a question. And then obviously an exclamation point means what?
It's with power. It's exciting.
Boom. It's kind of like when Brother Jack goes, woo, real loud, okay? Exclamation point on whatever he's excited about, that woo is like his exclamation point. All right? So, talking about your life tonight. Come on. Okay. Still to be determined. There's lost my train of thought. Let's start off with the period. It's like I said, it's the most common. Most people in living a life. Would you put most people's life, if you had to, at the end of their life, would most people's life end with a period, question mark, or an exclamation point? Period. All right. Everybody agree with that? If you took everybody you know, everybody in the world, everybody you go to school with, and you just looked at their life, most people's life would end with a period. Okay? Nothing exciting, nothing remarkable, maybe, period. Okay? Some would end with a question mark, and we're going to get there in a second. And very few, some of the people we named, whether it's positive or negative, their life ends with an exclamation point. Like I said, let's start with a period. What would that person look like? If you were describing somebody's life that ended in a period, it'd probably be about like old Larry Baxter I read about, right? All right, give me an example of a normal, common life.
They woke up, ate some breakfast, went to work, came back, ate supper, went to bed.
All right?
Repeat.
Don't think on a daily basis, think on through a lifetime, yeah.
Wear the same polo shirt every single day for 65 years, go to the same coffee shop every day for 65 years, and get the same caramel frappuccino, I don't care. And then you go to the same working, be an attorney in an office job.
All right?
That's oddly specific.
Fair to
Is this your dream life after now?
All right.
65 years of it. That's
Let
very
me lead you a little bit. Most people, when they are 5 years old, do what?
I want to be an astronaut.
I want to be a firefighter, a police officer, an artist, and a ballerina all
Stop.
at the same time.
They do what when they're 5 years old?
They dream.
Go to school, right? And then for the next 13 years, then most people graduate,
Sorry.
and then they do what?
They get in serious debt by going to college.
They're gonna do one of four things.
Sorry. I'm
They're
sorry.
gonna graduate high school, they're gonna go to college, trade school, army, or whatever, or they're gonna do nothing.
They gonna roll bomb.
Okay. Now, and then most people are gonna get what in their early 20s?
Dirt broke.
Job, they're gonna get what? Married. They're gonna have one or two kids, and then they're gonna follow those kids along till they get gone, and then they're gonna retire, and then they're gonna what? Live a few years, and be dead and gone. That's the American way. That's what the average American does. And we're getting away from that average, but that's what has gone on for the whole, what century are we in, 21st or second?
21st.
Whole 20th century, that's what happened. Okay, 21st century, we're starting to vary from that. All right, those are people that would end their life with a period. Now, people that end their sentence of their life with a question mark are people that would be like, why'd they do that? What were they thinking? You know, what in the world? They had every opportunity. You ever know anybody like that? I mean, why in the world did they choose that? Why in the world did they do that? Why did they waste all that? Okay, a lot of people, and more as we see, and being in high school, I see it every day. A bunch of people, it's just, some people we see come through high school, it's very predictable. Yep, I saw that coming. I knew that's where they were headed. And then some people, you end up scratching your head like, man, they were such a good kid. They had so much going for them. They were so smart. They were so talented. They were such a good athlete or whatever. What happened? You know, people end their life that way. And last but not least, a few people end their life with the exclamation point. Some people go on and do some great things. I want to look at a scripture tonight, if you got your Bible. Matthew 25. It's a parable. And Jesus told this parable, and it's in red, so Jesus said it. So, and I'm going to read it kind of quickly, but it's not hard to understand. I'm going to start in verse 14, chapter 25 of Matthew. It's called the parable of the talents. And this is Jesus talking. He says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents." All right, first of all, before we go any further, anybody know what a talent is? It's not being a good musician, or in this case, or a good athlete. A talent was what?
Coin.
All right, talent is actually a measurement. So, of course, Jesus could have been meaning a lot of things here, but most people think at this point, your wealth back in those days, if you had a lot of gold, it wouldn't be in coins, it would be in weight. So it would be in gold, whatever you had accumulated. So a talent was a measure, and they think it was about 6,000 pounds. So when you're thinking of a talent, we're not thinking of he gave the guy 5 coins. He gave him 5 huge, heavy piles of gold or silver, whichever they were dealing with. Most people think it was gold here. All right. Now, you got to understand this. Back in those days, there weren't banks. And if you had a lot of material wealth and you went traveling, it would be hard to take all that gold with you that you owned. So you'd have to have some people you could trust. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, either way you want to look at it, these guys, when they traveled, they would leave their worldly possessions, all this gold and wealth, with servants or slaves. And they would trust them that, hey, I'm going on a long trip. When I get back, This better be here and all that, okay? So that's what we're talking about. And in today's terms, most people think, and this is gonna blow your mind here, that a talent was worth what today would be about $400,000. Okay, so he left, I stopped it to this. He left the first guy 5 talents. Some of you smart people. Five times 400,000 equals 2 million. 2 million bucks. I wouldn't trust my brother with 2 million bucks, especially a servant or a slave, right? Okay, so we're talking, this guy's really trusting, so that's important here. So when he left, he said, he left one with 5 talents. To another one, he left 2 talents. All right, so he left him 800,000, and to one he left 1 talent, which was about 400,000 in today's terms. To each according to his own ability, and immediately he went on a journey. Okay, so the guy he trusted most, right? He left the most with. Then the second guy, 2 talents. Third guy, not quite as much. But it's huge, you know, when you read this parable, you think, that third one's a loser there. He only left him with 1 talent. That's 400,000 bucks, y'all. He wasn't that big a loser. If you gonna trust just anybody with 400,000 bucks, no. So he thought a lot of all 3 of these guys. Then he went. Let's see. And to what was that? And then he went on the journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. So he doubled the money. And likewise, he who had 2 gained 2 more. So he doubled his money. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came back and settled accounts with them. So he comes back to town. So the guy that had received 5 talents came and brought the other 5. So he brought him 10. He said, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Now, how do you think he doubled that money, y'all? They couldn't have gone and invested it because there weren't investment brokers and stuff then, right?
Probably bought and sold a bunch of stuff.
Right. He probably bought goods and sold, okay? Or he may have let people borrow money and collected interest on it. But to double your money, it was probably what Logan said. They probably bought and sold.
15
All right.
leg parlay in October.
Huh?
15 leg parlay in October.
Yeah. Or yeah, he played that. No. All right. So he also who had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. And notice here, his Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. All right. So before we go any further, one guy took 5, made 10. One guy took 2, made 4. What did he tell those guys?
They're gonna rule over a bunch of stuff.
Deja vu, right? Not specifically. Did he tell the five talent guy? Look at your scripture there. Word for word, what did he tell him? The exact same thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So he was just as proud of the guy that he trusted 2 with as he was the guy he trusted 5 with, because they both doubled his money. Okay? That's a key factor here in a minute. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. So he dug it up and said, it's just like you left it. But his Lord answered and said to him, you wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. All right, so he was mad at him. And that, I said there was no banks back then. That's a whole different concept, but I wasn't lying to you. It's a different kind of bank than we're picturing. All right, so, but anyway, here's what he said to him. He took it away from him. He said, for to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, great parable. We can go a lot of different directions with that parable. It's a tough one to teach if you're not careful, because it's got a lot of controversial stuff. If you're already thinking that deep, if you're not, don't go there. But here's what I want us to learn from that. I want you to think of the talents as gifts, because that's what they were, right? Even though it's money, God gives us all talents, okay? And the first thing he gives us is the gift of salvation, okay? Now, not everybody receives it or accepts it or is serious about it, is a better way to put it. But God gives us the gift of salvation. Now, when we look at, Brother Jack preached a wonderful sermon Sunday morning, but Ephesians 2:8-9 says, for by grace are we saved through faith, that not of good works, lest any man should boast. It is a gift from God, right? Okay, so your salvation is a gift, okay? And we're the servants, we're the slaves. We don't deserve it, okay? But God loves us, trusts us with his son. Okay, so he gives us the gift of salvation if we decide to receive it. Okay. Now that's not all he gives us. He gives us talents. Okay. Now I want you to change your brain from talent being a money thing to talent like we think of. Hey, I got talent. I can dance or whatever, or I can sing or whatever. Now start thinking that way for a minute, because it applies the same way. He gives us gifts or talents. He gives us some of us skills. He gives us some of us personality, some of us sense of humor. He gives some of us music ability, some of us athletic ability. He gives some of us family connections. Think about that. Give me an example. Somebody who has a family connection. Franklin Graham. Who's Billy Graham? Everybody heard of Billy Graham? Greatest preacher of all time. You know what his son's doing now? He's reaching people for Jesus on his dad's coattail. It's a wonderful thing. Okay? Franklin Graham wouldn't be doing the great things he's doing, but he's using that family name. Me and my brother are doing that, so to speak, of our dad, because he was a preacher. Way better of a man than I am. Maybe not my brother, but social positions. Can God use social positions? Think how this country would be changed if we had a president of the United States, and our sorry country would probably never elect him, that was just a bold warrior for Christ. Think how it would change our country. Think about if our senators, our local representatives, and all these people were on fire for the Lord, how it would change the landscape of our country. So social positions. He gives people the gifts of that. He gives people the gift of education. Some people are more educated than others. He gives us gifts of experiences. And what I mean by that is like your testimony. Some of y'all will go through things that you can share with others. I can think specifically, I won't get off on myself tonight, but the Lord's allowed me to experience some stuff that was rough to go through, but now I can sure look somebody in the eye and talk to them about what they're going through, because I've been there and done that, right? Also, he gives us so many things, including, like I said, most importantly, our salvation. But this entire parable should teach us to invest our lives and not to waste them. There's a club at Marshall County High School. If you don't hear anything else I say tonight, and whether you're thinking about your life just as a human on this planet, or you're thinking about your life as a soul in eternity with Jesus, whether you're thinking worldly or spiritually right now, and I hope you're thinking both, because you certainly can make an impact in both arenas. There's a club at school I call the I Wish Club, and I made it up. But as being the athletic director, I'm at a ton of ball games. I go to about 130 ball games a year, and all different sports. And of course, I get tired of watching ball. I'm just gonna be honest with you. But I'm standing around and I hear stuff, and I see players. I saw one at volleyball the other day I hadn't seen in years, and I remembered him. And I remembered him being a good basketball player. But when I stand around, I talk to them, and they all come up and hug me and start talking to me. What are you doing now and all this stuff. A bunch of them are in the I Wish Club, because eventually in that conversation they'll say, Coach, you know what? I wish when I was in high school I would have studied harder, or I wish I got my ACT up, or I wish I would have took that scholarship and stuck with it. I wish I would have gone and got my degree. It's a ton of them. Call it the I Wish Club, okay? Because they can look back and say, man, why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? All right, living with a question mark. And there's a ton of them. And I had a girl that graduated. I gotta be careful, I don't want anybody to identify. I'll just say a while back. And I told her when she was young, in my opinion, and I got a pretty good opinion because I've been there and done it. She could have been the, in my opinion, top 5 greatest athletes to ever come through this entire county. And I told her sophomore year, I said, you're gonna be in the I Wish Club. She said, what's that? And I explained to her what I just said. And guess what? She joined it here recently because she squandered her scholarship and never went the first day because of some bad choices. People are gonna have that same experience spiritually. People, you're gonna look back on your teenage years and you're gonna say, man, you know, I'm looking at the sentence of my life, and I lived a big question mark when I was in high school. I'm so embarrassed. What I'm remembered for is something awful or something sinful or something that's not honoring or pleasing to God. Or like people me and Chuck's age, we look at people that pass away, because I certainly played college baseball with people that have passed away. Several guys I played college with, 2 or 3 on that picture in the gym at the high school that I played high school state championship baseball with, are dead and gone. And I don't know how many times I said, man, I wish that back then I would have told them about Jesus. I wish I had one more chance to introduce them to my Savior. I wish I would have invited them to church, because I had to certainly go every time the door was open. Why didn't I? But anyway, those are things that you're going to look back and think on. Move quick. So here's some things that parable would include, okay? And you think about, when you think about the 5 talent guy, the 2 talent guy, and the 1 talent guy. God, Master, loved them all, had faith in all of them, he gave some more responsibilities than others. Does he do that with us? Absolutely. Okay, and that's why I said it's going to be key here in a minute when we look back, okay? Because when the guy that had 5 talents doubled them, the same thing Jesus said about him down here when the 2 guy doubled his, Jesus said the exact same. He was equally proud of them, okay? Because he gave more responsibility because he knew what they could handle, okay? And then he gave the lowest guy the least, and what did he do with it? He squandered, or he buried it, okay? Which one of those guys are you? Which one would you put the exclamation point with? 5 talent guy, right? Which one would you put the period with? 2 talent, all right? Which one would you put the question mark with? Yeah, just like the master did. What are you thinking? You could have at least done this or that. They have a question, okay? Is that how you're living your life? Which way are you living your life? The parable would include this. A Sunday school teacher that invests their time in little kids. You think that would be doing what the master wanted you to do with the talent he gave you? Yes. All right. What about, he may give you financial gain. That certainly would apply to that. If you invest money and you have it, and you obey God and you tithe it and you give to needy people, God's going to bless you and give you more. You may start a business. He may bless you with a business. It creates jobs that helps people. I heard a guy today looking for a job to help somebody. Good stuff. Health worker. You may start an AIDS awareness program or a crisis pregnancy center, or who knows what the Lord has for you. A mechanic. One of the guys in my testimony is a guy named Bob McKinney. He was a deacon at First Baptist, one of the dear friends of my dad. And some of you heard me say this before, but when my dad was dying with cancer, he called Bob in. I never knew this till years later. He said, "Bob, I'm going to die. I want you to take care of my boys." And I never knew why Bob McKinney took such an investment in me and my brother all those years. It's because my dad asked him to. And is that investing like what God's talking about? Absolutely. We can all do that. He was a mechanic, but he served the Lord. And whether you're a deacon, you could be a coach, you could be a guidance counselor. I've got a great story I'll share with some of you another time about our guidance counselor. Chuck, I got another chapter in that. You can be a coach that makes an impact on somebody's life. You can be a guidance counselor. You can be a teacher. You can be a volunteer. You can be a Little League coach. You can go volunteer at Hopetown. You can work for AA. You can work for recovery. There's all kinds of ways that we can invest whatever gifts God gives us in all these things. So if we invest our gifts from God, I promise you, just like these two guys here who live in proof, God will reward you. Whether it's 5 or whether it's 2, God's going to reward you. I read a while ago on the internet, you talk about athletes. So, well, I'm an athlete. There's a guy, and here's how the good Lord works. His name is Morgan Shepherd. He's a NASCAR driver. He's going to start a race Sunday with Jesus on his hood. And he's the oldest guy to ever run NASCAR in the history of NASCAR. I meant to look up how old he is. You know how old he is? I want to say 79. He's going to run a car 200 miles an hour. But he's got the name of Jesus on his car, and that's why he's running. But God can use race car drivers.
82.
Huh?
82.
82 years old, going to run a race car 200 miles an hour or something. Crazy, because he's doing it for Jesus. A lot of if y'all watched any of the Olympics, a lot of the Olympic athletes had Jesus in their testimony. It's neat. I scoured the internet looking for that. When me and Amy go to Major League Baseball games, I listen to walkout songs. A guy named Paul Goldschmidt plays for the Cardinals. I never liked him, never cared nothing about him. We went to see the Cardinals and the Dodgers summer before last. Walkout song, Christian walkout song. I've liked him ever since. I follow him. I watch him every day. I check and see how Paul Goldschmidt did. I'm cheering for that dude because he's standing for Jesus. Okay, we can invest those talents. We can use those talents. Don't go bury them. We can all do any of this little stuff that I'm talking about. So real quick, question mark. What would that person look like spiritually?
They wouldn't know if they were going to heaven or not.
Huh?
They wouldn't know if they were going to heaven or
All right. What else? What would make you question?
not. The top of top, but not walk the walk to the
Well said. That's one of my favorite expressions. They cause other people to stumble. Paul said in Romans 14, he said, anything you do that causes somebody to stumble, don't do it. Okay? We cause people to stumble. Whether it's our actions, our language, or what we do on Friday and Saturday night, our love life, or whatever. Anything you do that causes somebody to stumble, don't do it. Jesus got more specific in Matthew 23. Here's what Jesus said about hypocrites. Would you say a question mark person's a hypocrite?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Jesus said this about them. Jesus was pretty bold on this. He said, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Exclamation point, for you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisees, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, that the outside of them may be clean. For you are like a whitewashed tomb, like a grave, which indeed appears beautiful on the outside. We've all seen beautiful headstones and stuff, but inside it's full of dead men's bones and all the uncleanliness. Okay? That's what Jesus says about you folks, us folks, those folks, whoever's claiming to be a Christian that's not living the life, that's what Jesus says about you. You're fake, you're a phony. You look good on the outside, but you're filthy on the inside. I can imagine, I could really call out a teacher in our building right now. They went in her room a couple of years ago because she was not bringing her dishes back to the cafeteria. And the cafeteria lady, we're running out of stuff. And they start looking around the building. Well, they find them in a teacher's room that's going and getting their lunch every day and bringing them to their room and eating and just stacking the stuff up. And it started smelling. And if you saw, those teacups, I mean, they had mold and like hairy stuff growing out of it. Like, ugh, all right? But what good would it do to wash that cup on the outside, right? Would you drink out of the inside? All right, that's what Jesus says. He said, you're fake on the outside. You look clean on the outside. You got all that grossness on the inside. That's what Jesus says about you if you're living a question mark. True story. The other day I was going down to West Commerce, I believe, and I pull up at a red light, and I see this truck, and on the back window, it's got a dude peeing. Y'all have all seen the little cartoon guy peeing on Ford or Chevy or something he doesn't like. Y'all seen those bumper stickers? Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Had that on the window, peeing on something. All right. Then on that big bumper stickers, it says, when I die, I hope they bury me face down so the whole world can kiss my, that. Stay with me. Other side of the bumper, guess what it said? I love Jesus. Did you see it? Anybody see that? It gives me chills thinking about it. What a joke, right? All that junk on one side, and I love Jesus on the other. That's hypocrite, okay? If you're living a question mark, I'll tell you this. If God could walk through that door at night, and some of y'all sitting in here, and he would say, listen, quit faking like you're a Christian. You're killing my kingdom. You're ruining this youth group. You're ruining your school. Okay? If you're going to live for me, live for me. If you're not, quit even faking it, because you're killing us. Because all these folks that are visiting here, that are coming for the first time, and we come in here and we give them a false impression. We talk ugly around them, and we live just like those other folks at school. You're killing the kingdom. You're killing Jesus. And if he could tell you one thing tonight, he'd say, get right or get left. Folks. All right, that's people who live in that question mark. Period. Not a bad thing. That would be the 2 talent guy. Maybe nothing exciting. They serve the Lord. I think of the good old folks down at First Baptist when I was a kid. A lot of farmers still in the community then. They would farm. They would come to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. They'd clean up, come to church. They'd bring us vegetables in the summer. They'd serve on committees. They'd be deacons. They lived to be old people and they died. And they went straight to heaven. Okay? They lived faithful lives. They did according to what God gave them. People that live a period. Most Christians will live that period. Our church is full of them over here. We've got some exclamation points. We've got a lot of periods, and that's fine. Okay, those are the people that God just doesn't trust as much with. But when he needs you for something, he expects you to jump in there and come through for him. There's I was thinking of somebody in the Bible that would fit that description. In 2 Chronicles 34, there's a guy named King Josiah. He ruled Israel for 31 years. He started when he was 8 years old. Here's what the Bible says about it. Straight out of the Bible. I wrote it down so I didn't have to look it up. It said, Josiah, 8 years old when he became king of Israel, served 31 years in Jerusalem, and he did right in the sight of the Lord. He did not turn to the right, aside to the right hand or to the left, period. That's all we know about Josiah. Okay? He lived a good life, right? He served the Lord. He served the king. God rewarded him. He's in the Bible. They mention him in the Bible. He didn't do anything remarkable. He just served the Lord. He did what the Lord called him to do. And last but not least, in a verse that goes with the period, Paul in Ephesians 4:1 urges us to walk with a worthy of the calling that you have received. So if you've been called as a Christian, the least you can do is walk that walk. Somebody said a while ago, walking the walk without talking the talk. The least you can do is walk the walk. bare minimum. And then last is the exclamation point. That would be the 5 talent guy who live out loud. I've had the privilege to watch a few people, very few kids, but some kids in my 27 years of youth ministry, I've seen some kids live with an exclamation point. I've seen some get there and retreat. I've seen some get there and fall. But I've seen some really people do some bold stuff for the Lord in my 27 years, and I've certainly seen a lot of adults. We're going to hear a guy preach Sunday night that certainly lives his life with an exclamation point. I think of this youth as an example. I know I'm talking fast. The first school shooting was back in Richland, actually, but the first nationwide one where that was Richland. The second one, I guess, was Columbine High School in Colorado. And I won't relive that. I remember the day it happened. And we had youth that night. And there was a young lady, and the guy was going in, and he had the girl on the ground, and he put a rifle to her head and said, "Do you believe in Jesus? If you say yes, I'm going to blow your head off." And she said, "Yes, I do." And he pulled the trigger. And her name was Casey Bernal. And if you ever get a chance to Google her, read her dad's book. Very, very powerful. She literally gave her life for Christ. And we won't give him 5 minutes, some of us. So that's a girl certainly that lived out loud. Paul and Barnabas, our Acts study, me and Chuck talked about last night, or 2 nights ago on the phone. When they were under their greatest persecution, the Bible says they were BOLD. They were bold. They were living for the Lord. Any of y'all ever seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge? Desmond Doss. He was a conscientious objector. In other words, he didn't believe in killing people. It was against his religion. So he was a medic. And he went to World War II, and they were in Japan, and he saved, literally with his hands, picked up 75 guys and lowered them down a cliff and saved their life that were injured. Did he live with an exclamation point? Absolutely. And he was a Christian, he was a God-fearer, and when he did that, he changed that whole unit for Christ. I'm telling you. I've been to see his grave in Chattanooga. Wonderful. Guy that lived out loud for the Lord. So, and last but not least, talking about the Titanic a while ago, I heard a cool story just this week that a guy stood up in church in New York way back in the early 1900s, and he told his testimony, and he was on the Titanic the night it sank, and he went to there was a preacher that died that night, and he went to that guy's church, and somebody preached, and they were mourning him, and he stood up, and he said, "That night in the water, I was on a piece of wood, and your preacher swam up to me and said, 'Do you know Jesus?' And I said, 'No,' and he drifted off, and he fought his way back, and he came in and said, 'Do you know Jesus?' And the guy said, 'No, not yet.' And the third time he said, 'Do you know Jesus?' He said, 'Yes, I've asked Jesus to come into my heart.' And with that, the preacher drifted off and drowned. And he stood up that night. He said, 'I am your preacher's last convert.' So that preacher lived an exclamation point as he was in that cold water. Life or death, he was swimming around trying to reach people for Jesus. That's a true story. So regardless of your talent, don't live with this last comma up there. Comma, it's dangerous. Don't be a Christian. I'm a Christian on Sunday, comma. During the week I live like I want to, comma. I'm a Christian with all my friends, but when I get around these certain friends, comma, I do this. Okay? Don't live your Christian life with commas. Live it out. Live that sentence. Live that exclamation point. And maybe you're sitting here tonight and you say, "You know what, Kevin? I can feel that first one in. I really don't know how to do that because, I'm young. I haven't really made my mark on this earth. But I can tell you for sure, Kevin, that I can't fill in number 2 because I know that I'm not saved. And I'm not going to lead you through that right now. But if you know you're not saved, if you know you've never been a time when you've asked Jesus to come in your heart, I will stay here with you tonight. I will meet you anytime, any place, anywhere when you want to talk about Jesus. If you go to my school, I've led many to Christ in my office. Nothing would please you more. So if you're going to leave a Christian end of the sentence. You got to first of all be a Christian. So I encourage you to do it tonight. I know I move fast. I thank you for ones of you who locked in and paid attention. That means a whole lot to me. And we'll just keep praying for the ones that don't, right? That's all we can do. All right? It's time to go. I'm just going to pray and we'll get out of here. Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you for a room full of young people. And I pray for the requests that are on their hearts tonight, Lord, that you already know. And to run out of time and don't have time to name them all, Lord. But I just pray that you'll be with all the sick people and the people that are hurting and the people that have got problems and pain and all that going on in their life, Lord, that you would just be with them in a huge and special way. Thank you for the ones that are here tonight with us that are visiting. I pray that they'll come back, and pray for the ones that are home folks that we'll do better, we'll be better. We'll strive to do all the things your word has told us to do tonight, Lord, and we will especially not cause people to stumble, that you would challenge us to have us live for you, Lord, and the minimum live our life with a period, Lord. But I pray that you would challenge us to be bigger and better than that and live bold and out loud for you. And may we all strive to put that exclamation point at the end of our spiritual journey here on this earth, Lord. And again, thank you for everybody who's here and be with them in a special way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Everybody know what that is?
Yeah.
There's three students on the ship, right? Can you
Coach
believe that
Shirey.
all these years there's still
Well, he
water?
works with me now. He was there. What'd he say? I missed
They
it.
recently found this out, can you believe after all these years there's still water in the swimming pool?
They found it in the ocean, it's like sensitive ocean.
There's still water in the swimming pool.
Water in the swimming pool.
Oh, okay. Good one. Okay, I got you.
funny.
Are you distracted over there? Huh? Are you distracted over there?
Not really. No, sir.